Oh, yeah.
Now yes.
Pardon?
Now yes.
Okay.
So.
But for the roundtable discussion, we have to prevent.
But then we give the microphone.
You think so? They have one?
Yesterday they did already. Okay. So.
That we have so many people here today in spite of the very early hour. My name is Christian Artelt. I'm chairing the Materials and Sustainability Committee of ECP, and in my private business life I'm working as a senior manager of sustainable construction for Heidelberg Cement, a major company in the area of cement, concrete and aggregates. I'm happy to welcome you to our session today here, which will be on the role of materials and sustainability in Horizon Europe. And I'm happy to have Gianmarco Revel with me, who is chairing with me together this session. And please, Marco.
Thank you, Christian, for the nice introduction. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Gianmarco Revel. I know many of you. I'm full professor at Università Politecnica delle Marche, and I coordinate with Christian the Materials and Sustainability Committee of ECTP. So this is the event of our committee. So it's really focused on trying to figure out the role of materials in the new context of the European research. I think that there are so many initiatives right now and so many opportunities that are seeing materials as a very important enabling technology for different purposes. We are having the twin transition, the Green Deal, Next Generation EU is posing some very interesting challenges as well. So, and Horizon Europe, of course, which is starting right now, has changed a little bit the configuration on how materials are supposed to contribute overall to final advancement in end user application in our society. So I think it's time to make some reflection on how materials can contribute, and also the role that materials can play in, first of all, finding some final application, But secondly, last but not least, also on developing business and industrial opportunities that, of course, in materials are involving many industries, large industries, many employees, and so, of course, it plays a very important role. So this session today is supposed to be organized like this. We will have two introductory speeches from two colleagues and friends that I thank very much to be here today, and then we will have a roundtable to discuss about the topics that are emerging from these preliminary two speeches that I think is going to be very interesting. So I would say that we start with the first speech. The first speech is from Olga Rio. Olga Rio is Policy Officer in the Directorate General Research and Innovation within the Clean Energy Transition Unit at the Directorate Clean Planet. Working in energy for the built environment issues, previously, Olga was the project officer in charge of nano and advanced materials from construction within current Directorate Prosperity. Before joining the Commission, she worked as a researcher in the Spanish National Research Council, Institute Eduardo Torroya, for construction sciences. So, Olga, maybe you're ready to go, hopefully? The floor is yours.
I want to thank, first of all, the organizers. I think it's an echo. I don't know if it is. Yes.
Olga,
I want to thank. Yes?
No, we hear you, but we don't see you. Okay. But we
okay, I don't know why, but I'm here. And in my.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know which is the problem because here I'm seeing myself in the screen of the Teams. Yeah, so probably it's an internal thing, no problem. Here. Okay, I will begin just in case because not to delay. I want to thank first of all the organizers represented by the ECTP, Madrid World Construction Capital, and the Spanish Technology Construction Platform for this very well-organized event. I also especially to thank my colleagues Marco and Christian for the invitation. It is for me a great pleasure to be here in the ECTP for discussing these topics. For me, it's very high-level expertise for discussing topic research and innovation policies, and especially in the field of materials, because material is nourishing more of the smart and sustainable construction growth today. And it's promoting also the, we can say, the development of the EU construction industry. This needs to lead to the title of my talk today, the beginning of new framework program, views and opportunities in material for a sustainable transition. I don't know if everybody's hearing me very well or not. Gianmarco, could you confirm, please?
The next slide, just tell me next slide, okay?
Okay. No, I can continue with this. Okay, thank you. Okay, I will go to the next slide. Well, let me first of all say if somebody knows how many topics in construction we have under Horizon Europe nowadays in the first calls. We have in total 35 topics dealing with construction. And this is along the whole program. With the except of the cluster in health, we have 35 topics distributed in all the whole program. Why this happens? I want to, first of all, put the strategic context. The EU has set very ambitious, at the moment, very ambitious, we can set targets to achieve the climate neutrality, particularly the intermediate targets by 2030 of reducing by 55% the greenhouse emissions and increasing also, in the case of construction, the sharing of renewables. So I want to flag here that energy is a very important topic also for the construction industry nowadays. And this is the reason that in Cluster 5, that is the cluster dedicated to energy, there is the most of the topics dedicated to the construction sector. This is an important thing to flag. But let me continue. The challenge for EU is how to achieve this climate neutrality in an economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable way. So I want to flag this. The three pillars need to be considered because we are in a very critical moment. We are in a difficult moment and we need to create more jobs, securing the EU competitiveness in high technology sectors and reducing also the pressure in the case of materials, that is the topic that we are discussing today, of natural resources, and provide also the consumer with affordable solutions, reducing also the pollution. As our Commission President said some days ago, the transition to clean energy is not only vital for our planet, it is also crucial for our economy. And this is something we need to think about. Therefore, the transition to clean energy for citizens and business alike is an integral part of this critical transformation. We need to think more globally. We are in a tipping point for climate change in the moment, recovery of post-COVID crisis. We are with a lot of problems also in the prices of energy, and all these need to be considered. We don't forget that the European Green Deal sets out the ambition, but this ambition was set out 2 years ago. And after that, several things happened, and we need to adapt to these times. The renovation wave, the new European Bauhaus, and the industrial strategy give us some ideas on how to follow up. But these are the ideas. We need to develop these ideas, and we need to work all together. This is the first important thing I want to flag. Innovation from a competitive Europe industry is a key in key enabling sectors like the advanced material, has a key role for pursuing these different goals simultaneously. We cannot more think in silos. We cannot more think in solving the problem of the environment or solving the problem of society or solving the technical problem. We need to think all together and all in a holistic way. European research and innovation policy is more following up in this way. Because it needs to fully leverage the potential of EU industry to accelerate the development of new technologies and processes. And in this, materials play a key role. Let me go to the next slide, please. And I want to show, is possible? Okay, no. We go to the next. Okay, sorry. Here. We need, as I said, we need to go all together. And I hear recently in a conference of SETPlan that I was participating, that we need to be all in the same boat, but we need to go all to the same direction. Because if we are all together in the same boat, but we are going to different parts, the boat doesn't move. So we need to move all straight forward in the same direction. We need to think that 2030, that is the target we fix, is just tomorrow. It's not very long time. And all these things we need to think about. And now let me say, which is the play of materials. Material is an enabling technology in most of the things. It's easy to see that is the backbone of all the physical elements we have around. And it's a very important thing for construction. Materials is a strategic area of both circularity and sustainability. We cannot be thinking anymore in sustainability without seeing the three pillars and not thinking in the whole process. We need to think in the whole process and this considered in the design. So we can say sustainable and circular by design need to be the basis of all the developments we do in materials. We need to think also in how reduce the environmental targets. And also we need to think in some important issue. We need to develop our solutions for the people. We need to put in the center of this the people. Planet plus people, not only planet. Materials are key advanced technologies and cost efficient, but we need still a lot to do. As materials are critical technologies having a ripple effect through whole economic system. For example, in product and process innovation. Let me put an example. If I check the material for energy, that is the topic I'm more involved now, advanced energy materials are essential elements in all the dimensions of energy systems, from the energy generation till the energy consuming. So in both sectors, we need materials. Same applies to the construction sector. We need to think in the whole process when we design these materials. So this is an important aspect. And one aspect that we need to improve also is, in order to accomplish with the circularity, the recycling. But all of us know in the construction sector that materials that we recycle, sometimes they don't have the performance yet that need to have. And this we need to improve. So we can say that in the whole space, we have materials. Let's go to the next, because I don't like to develop, you know better than me how to do the research. Let me show now what is Horizon Europe. I will not concentrate in the whole of Horizon Europe because you hear a lot about. I concentrate in the pillar 2, where is the cluster, and when we have more close the industry. We are today in a technological event with industries represented, and it's important that we know what we are doing. As I said before, materials is in all the topics. I flag health in a different color because it's in the only, we make a mapping of all the topics in Horizon Europe now, and it's the only topic, we don't found a topic of construction, but in the remaining clusters, you have topics of construction and also material for construction. Let me identify one thing that is important to see in Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is not only the main funding program for research, but also a program that have in mind 3 aspects. It's forward-looking. We need to look to the future to develop now. We need to look in the demand to develop our solution. We need to be pulled by the demand, not push the research. And we need to be mission-oriented in order to go more together. Following a mission approach is important. And we need to increase our impact. And this is the consideration on how is organized Horizon Europe. It will be power the Green Deal and will also help in define the future. And for this, materials, as I said, have a very important role. Let me go to the next slide because you have now the flag of the different pillars. And set where are construction material in Horizon Europe. Mainly, we can say that we have 2 flag initiatives, the industrial-oriented research and the energy-oriented material research. In both of these, materials are very well represented. So the pillar for Horizon Europe, Cluster 4, where are the industry, is still the pillar where we have more devoted the basic research in materials. However, when we go to the applications of materials to different industries, we move to the other clusters. So, and this is the reason that we can see that in Cluster 4, we have 7 topics. But we have also several initiatives dealing with material. The Clean Steel Low Carbon Partnership, the Process for Planet Partnership, the Made in Europe co-programmed partnership. And one I want to flag here is the significance of the industry in all these programs, in all these things. We need to work together with the industry. This is very important. In Cluster 5, we have in total 22 core topics in the field of construction, and most of them related to materials. And I want to say that this is mainly in the Cluster 5 and classify, destination 3 and 4. In destination 4, you have all what is related to high energy efficient and climate neutrality. And there we have also the partnership bill for people that was yesterday presented, so I will not go into this. But we have also the mission on cities. And then we have, last but not least, two other partnerships with the member states that are quite important for developed research. For ending, I want to say simply that we need to remember different words. Holistic, all together, working for deployment, research deployment, and also ahead and try to meet our targets for 2060. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you very much. Thank you. You gave us a lot of indications and showed a lot of opportunities and point for discussion later on. So let's go to the next speaker. Next speaker is Marco Falsetti. Marco received a Master of Science in Aeronautical Engineering at Università degli Studi di Roma, La Sapienza. He works in the field of material at CSM, Centro Sviluppo Materiali, since many, many years. He has been National Detached Expert at the Research Directorate General of the European Commission in Brussels, in the Material Unit. And now Marco is the director of APRE, which is the Italian Agency for the Promotion of European Research. And he's acting also as chairman of the management board of A4M, which is the Alliance for Material Initiative, chairman of EUMAT, the European Technology Platform on Advanced Engineering Materials and Technologies, and member of many advisory boards and steering committees of different EU projects and initiatives. So, Marco, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gianmarco. Sorry, you should listen to me now. Is it okay? I suppose yes. Okay, Olga replied to my question. Thanks, Olga. Okay, very short, 10 minutes will be very short to address already a complex picture that was perfectly introduced by Olga, and this will simplify part of my presentation. Most of the concept has been already put on the table by Olga will be from my side, but I will speed up a lot and I will probably concentrate on a couple of messages. Okay, I have no control, so I think that you should start to move my slide. Is it right? Next slide, or you should give me. Okay, it seems that now the control is here. Okay, Gianmarco has already introduced two of my hats that justify my presence here as chairman of EUMAT and Alliance for Material. EUMAT is an European technology platform, as it was ECTP since the beginnings. We have almost a parallel story, and again, that now stand for many years. EUMAT is a technology platform dedicated to material advocacy, material lobby, and was clearly part of the evolution of the material story along the last almost 20 years in Commission. Again, it was mentioned Alliance for Material. Alliance for Material has been a production of EUMAT when we launched, starting with FRAMS and EMRS, two of the major European society related to materials, and with a lot of other relevant partner mainly involved in the area directly or indirectly of materials. And among that, certainly ECTP was already one of our companion in this adventure. And I'm going fast, I'm sorry. But what we have done, I'm just focusing the last yes, 12 months, 18 months. We are doing what is part of your interest. We have done, and most of these we memes together, including with the ECTP contribution, we have tried to support and to advocacy for the role of materials in the Horizon in Europe. Before was Horizon 2020, but nowadays Horizon Europe. Now we had the recent, that is 1 year ago, manifesto production, and there was the role of materials for post-COVID society, and a long document that has been drafted with many contributions, including the ECTP colleagues. Now, this is just to show you that ECTP is part of this game. There is clearly a strong relations with the area of buildings, and that is a contribution from your working groups on materials as part. It's just an example. I don't want to focus on the content now, but just to provide you evidence that under the umbrella Alliance for Material, we really start to work all together in order to highlight the role of materials in the landscape. And it was clearly very well described by Holger how the picture around us has completely changed compared to Horizon 2020. But I will be back in a short time to that. This is just to prove evidence that the mechanism is running and is running, putting together all the possible voices that should be relevant to I don't want to say lobby, because this is certainly not a positive word in the European framework, but at least to convince, to explain, to provide evidence how much relevant is materials. Olga just stressed the idea that sustainability for Horizon Europe is not just environment, not just social, not just economy, is a mix of that. And that is perfectly the picture where we should move around. And that is much more complicated compared to the past. But we will be back. So, coming back to do some kind of very fast conclusion, but this is not really conclusion. 7 framework program, Horizon 2020. Now we move to Horizon Europe. Commission start to convince us that it was an evolution from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. But I have to say that probably it is more a revolution than an evolution. There is a lot of different improvement if we compare the two programs, and I will go in deep in that very fast for some comment, just to share feelings about that. Now, it was already addressed some elements by Holger. I don't want to repeat, and this is not a presentation about contents, but just to give you a picture. It was clearly stressed that if you look to the material area and if you look to the buildings and you put all together these things, you have clearly the impression that there are a lot of different opportunities. Clearly, cluster forward program at least in a couple of destination, but you have a lot spread all around a different cluster. It was already mentioned by Holger that. So we should not stay just in one place, but we should go around to look to all the different possibilities. Clearly, don't forget the European partnerships. There is one dedicated partnerships for building, but apart of that, interconnection between this partnership may provide a lot of different interests and possibility. Again, don't forget that if the cluster 4 and the pillar 2 is the main probably area, this is not the end of the game. I'm going very fast again. Don't forget the mission, and don't forget even the Bauhaus initiative. So I don't want to give all these elements with the idea to provide you information. You know already a lot about that, and I have no time to enter in deep discussion about that. But my idea is to put together these elements. On top of that, we have not to forget this citizen social engagement that has becoming a leitmotif in Horizon Europe. Well, if we mix all together, you get a complex picture. And that is the complexity of Horizon Europe. A lot of different possibilities that are relevant for material, are relevant for material for buildings industry. And that may be a chaotic approach, apparently. So let me say something. People like us that are used to work with the Commission since more than 20, in my case, about 30 years. Let's say that as far as concerned material, I would say we were used to be in a comfortable zone until Horizon 2020. Everything was almost clear. We know who is who. We know where to go and where to concentrate our attention. Now, when we move into Horizon Europe, the situation is much more complicated. It seems an uncomfortable solution. Most of the people that come to us as APRE, and we are a national counterpoint for the whole Horizon Europe as far as concerned Italy, we get this impression of complexity and the needs to manage complexity. But be careful, because it's clear the first reaction could be to be scared about that. I understand that. But this is not a clever way to react. Probably the clever way is to managing complexity. It's an equilibrium to be found in this big, in a complex area, but complexity means opportunities and relevant opportunities to deal with. So, in conclusion, approach Horizon Europe with a different approach, with a different view. Is a mix of many different elements, not anymore silos, more interconnection elements, but this is also a big possibility to go around to get a lot of different opportunities that at the end of the games could be an opportunity to put on your activity, your research, your strategic view at the top of the best. So I'm going to conclude here and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Marco. You've been really, the interesting conclusions that you showed will be surely discussed now in the round table. And thank you also very much for being very much in time. So, Christian, let's introduce the round table.
Thank you also so much from my side, Olga and Marco. Via your presentations, really very much appreciated. I'm now very delighted to come to the round table today, which is on opportunities and strategy for materials in Horizon Europe. And I'm really happy to have people here from various sectors, from government, from construction, from research and development, who will help us participating, who will be part of the discussion. And I'm happy to welcome today Teresa Riesco, who is the Secretary General de Innovación at the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation. We have, next one is Paul Cartuvels. You know him quite well. Paul is the Executive Director of Greek Europe, and he is also the President of ECTP. We have then Antonio Gigire. He represents the producers sector. Antonio is an economist, and he has worked as a foreign trade advisor for the Spanish embassy in various commercial roles. And Antonio, he joined Keraben in 2008, and he has managed quite a lot of projects for Keraben since then, and he has been recently tasked also with the management of European research, development and innovation projects in Spain. We have Veronika Schröpfer, who is joining us via this web meeting. Veronika is the head of the EU research project at Architects Council of Europe And she's currently also the Vice President at ECREDI, that is the EU Council for Construction Research, Development and Innovation. Veronica speaks from the architect's point of view, but she possesses a broad range of know-how in sustainable construction, also through her PhD in that field and work of experience in a broad range of the built environment, so real estate, economics, facility management, just to give you some examples. And then we also have with us today Jamie Moreno. Jamie has a PhD in material science and process engineering from the École Centrale de Nantes in France. And Jamie is working today as a researcher and project manager for Technalia, especially in the fields of sustainable materials and circular economy. And so thanks a lot to all for participating. And I think that is the good moment to open the round table. Marco.
So thank you, Christian, for introducing our speakers, our panelists. And of course, again, thanks to Olga and Marco for their introductory speeches. I think there are many items that we should discuss, also based on what we heard from our two introductory speeches. We have some 45 minutes for this discussion. So my proposal would be, first of all, to have a first round of quick comments about the outline that we received about Horizon Europe and the opportunities within Horizon Europe that has been clearly described as a very different structure with respect to Horizon 2020 under the material perspective. Of course, I would like just you to highlight what you feel important in what you heard, and then we go maybe in some more specific topics that we can highlight for this discussion. So, please, yeah, maybe, yes, please.
Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation for this roundtable. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to be to cooperate with the sector that I have a lot of contact with. So let me start with maybe not, I don't want to change the topic of the roundtable, but I would like to say something that is the bounding conditions of Horizon Europe, and particularly during these first 2 years or the first 3 years of Horizon Europe, have changed a lot compared to Horizon 2020 because of the appearance of the next generation EU funds. This is something that will be very, very important, particularly in those countries like Italy, Spain, and others that will receive a large amount of money, particularly for science innovation and transformation of the economy. Yeah. So what we have observed in the Spanish government, and particularly in the Ministry of Science and Innovation, relates very much with that. I mean, many of the companies that maybe you are here are very much observing what is happening with the next generation EU funds, because they will be managed closely, sometimes even in Spain by the regions, not only by the central government. So this is an opportunity that changes very much the focus on that. This is what is happening, but this is very short term, because this is something that will happen during the following 3 years, and Horizon Europe goes until until 27, so we have to think about it. So this is one thing, yeah? And we have, in the case of Spain, of course, we have aligned very much the funds and the use of the funds with the objectives of Horizon Europe, which are, as it was very well expressed by Marco, but I think that these are very much are going to something that is more complex, that relates with very cross cooperation between or among different sectors, different agents, and this is something that relates with something that Europe is focusing very much on from a long time, which is having more impact on the programs they are having. So if you see the big difference between Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe is not particularly in the more scientific things, because European Research Council is almost more or less the same, but there's a big change in the last part that relates with European Innovation Council. The appearance of having the accelerator, all this blended funding that is appearing for startups and scale-ups, so the appearance of something that is very, very innovative, I think is very different. And this is something that we are doing this in Spain for some years ago. We have a venture capital, a public venture capital that co-invests with the private ones that is called Invierte. And we have, I don't know, something like 70 or 80, I don't know at this moment, startup companies. But the idea of this fund is very similar to the EIC funds, that is to make the companies grow, to become scale-ups and, hopefully unicorns. And for finishing this, I want to also talk about something that was established by Marco that is very interesting, that is the European Bauhaus. And I think that's another good opportunity for other fields, not that technological fields, but other fields that are required to, again, to increase the impact of the research and innovation funds that we are having. And on this part, I would like to remind you that maybe you all know that next year, Valencia will be the World Capital of Design, and there will be a lot of activities and a lot of opportunities there also for your sector, for innovation and everything related with design, and in this European Bauhaus. So this is my first, but I have a lot of things to say, so if you leave me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Paul.
Yes, you have to disinfect. We need to stay there? Okay. I wanted to take advantage.
So, good morning, everybody. I would like to make a particular comment. To me, Horizon Europe is a fantastic program. I don't have any particular critics to say about this. The subject of materials is incredibly interesting, and I think we must also take a bit of pride about seeing the fantastic things that we can do on materials. I think it's really almost science fiction when we check some of those new materials, so we really are doing already incredible things. I would like to come back to what I heard just before. It is the context in which Horizon Europe is going to work. And if we want our research to be useful as much as possible, we need to really be absolutely aware that the issues that were mentioned on circularity, of course, environmental impact, the pollution side, impact on water, I mentioned you that yesterday, I think, impact on biodiversity, these are impacts that will be looked at not for the financing of the research project. They will be looked at for the financing of the projects in real life afterwards. So it is important that our research is fully aware of what will be asked to the real projects. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to work. So I remind you, there are two climate objectives: climate mitigation, which is the CO2 objective, climate adaptation, and then the 4 environmental objectives that are coming on water, pollution, circular economy, and biodiversity. So we need to keep those elements in mind. It is essential for the sustainable financing of the economy. Also, Marco mentioned the research on new and traditional materials. I think we need to insist on existing materials in buildings, not only the new and the traditional ones, because one of the main subjects is to reuse, recycle the existing material when we deconstruct, to use the right word, deconstruct buildings, and all the problems behind on the market of secondary products, the way we will standardize them, certify them, guarantee them. These are the issues that we have practically to follow. They are not easy at all. Then I told you science fiction, I have to tell you also about Stone Age, and make an example that will make shiver my friend Isabel over there, is that the reuse of materials. Maybe there are examples in Spain, but I know in Rome, you can find buildings where they have pieces of other historic buildings in them. So do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying we have to dismantle historic buildings, don't say that. But I mean, the use of buildings as banks of materials has been around for some time. And we need to reach this level of banks of materials with more recent buildings that we will have to deconstruct. I have so many more things to say, but I will stop on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I would like to build on the aspects of circularity that you were mentioning, and maybe, Veronica, could you give us your insights about circularity and also how this relates to health and comfort?
Yes, hello everyone, good morning. Thank you for the introduction, Christian, and for the others for the interesting speeches as well. So just a quick word about Horizon Europe. So of course, for us as the Architects Council of Europe, the new European Bauhaus initiative is like the dream that we always wanted to have, basically. I think when the old Bauhaus was extinguished, it was a very, very dark time in world history. And this new European Bauhaus brings back not only the architectural quality, but uniting all the different strands of how we want to live in the future. And when we look at Horizon 2020, we really had to look for the word architecture in the calls. There were not many calls that mentioned the quality of architecture and of architects. While now, through the new European Bauhaus initiative, architecture is sort of everywhere. And architecture is not only the beauty of things and the design that the client in the end likes to pay for, that the investor likes to invest in, but it's also the functioning of the building and the high quality result and the build performance in use. And then, of course, as Paul said, coming to the circularity, the design for deconstruction and the dismantling and the reuse of the materials as material banks. So when we look at materials in specific in circular economy, we have to, of course, look at the reuse and how can we reuse the materials, and maybe that goes too much into detail now in the quick opening statement, but then it's really difficult to get the right certification of the materials and to ensure that the performance of the reused material is the same as a new material. And this is something that really has to be changed. It cannot be cheaper because it's a more standardized process to buy a new product than using an old product, but it has to go through all the tests to be certified for its performance. So there has to be a change here. And I think I leave it there for the opening and come back to it later.
Thank you very much, Veronica. So next, Antonio, the point of view of an industry like Caraben.
Hello. Good morning. Thank you to Gianmarco and Christian for inviting me to this panel. I'm afraid I'm going to be touching upon issues that have been raised since the intervention of Olga, that maybe means that we are all on the same wavelength. From our point of view, I work for Caraben, which is a manufacturer of ceramic tiles, floor and wall tiles, part of the Victoria PLC group. We have a capacity of around 60 million square meters and facilities in Spain, Italy, and Turkey. So my view on the industry is from this perspective of a ceramic tiles manufacturer. And I think it's important what Olga mentioned in her intervention about the context. We have to be aware of what the context is when we want to introduce innovations. And the context for industry right now is, let's say, a succession of crises in the last 15 years. We have been through a financial crisis in 2007, which also was a demand crisis for us. When we recover, we had the pandemic crisis. Since, I think, last quarter of 2020, we are into this crisis of costs, let's say, with great hikes in the raw materials prices, the energy prices, logistics prices, and this is all affecting us very much. And the lesson that we take from that is that we need to be flexible. We need to be both reactive and we need to be proactive in our approach. We need to be prepared to be hit fast and hard at any time, and to have impacts like the ones that we have suffered during the last years. To give you an example, we have from 2007 to 2009, our output in the ceramic industry dropped by around 45%. The impact also on the employment was similar, and that was across the sectors. So this is something that we have to take into account. What is the situation of the business in our economies? Also, there is something that is quite obvious, but we have to also keep consideration about it, and is that businesses are move for profit. We introduce innovations that can give us advantage in the market, that can give us some edge on the competition, and this is something that doesn't allow us to keep innovation ourselves for very long. That's why it's so important to have projects. I mean, packages like Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, European partnerships between public and private actors. Because ourselves, we could not do it. We are currently in a couple of projects of Horizon 2020 with research institutions, with universities, with other industrial partners. We will not be able to do it ourselves. It will not be justifiable. And I would like to also touch upon the topic of the panel in terms of material and in terms of the circularity that has been mentioned. Of course, all companies are aware of what is the societal need for sustainability and for recirculation of materials and use of less natural resources. But there is one point that I would like to explain here, and it is about the recycled materials. Usually our products are designed for use and performance. They are not designed for recycling. So we find that when they reach the end of life point, the demolition of a building, for example, it is very difficult to recover those materials and use them again in production. Even from the point of view of legislation, sometimes they are just considered waste or residues, and they are supposed to be disposed of. It's sometimes difficult even to bring them back to production. I think that there are already some tools like biomimetic or cradle-to-cradle approaches to design that I think should be extended in order to have materials ready to be recycled again. I will leave it now. Maybe later on we can have some more input.
Thank you, thank you so much, Antonio. And well, Jamie, you have extensive research know-how in the area of sustainable materials and circular economy. Maybe you could give us your insights about industrial research roads and policy developments or policy development needs in order. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Christian, and thank you for inviting us to be part of this session of the roundtable and talking about material, this interesting topic, because we cannot talk about sustainability in construction sector without talking about materials and without talking about circular economy altogether. So in Tecnalia, our main mission is to generate knowledge, to transfer this knowledge to the final appliers, to the industry, and generate growth, and keep always in mind the challenge of the society. We are always talking about circular economy, climatic neutrality, and so on. But our mission is to make real this vision of materials. So for us, coming back to the role of European project and this kind of instrument, public instrument, for us is essential to have this kind of instrument for generating knowledge about concerning the new technologies, developing new technologies, new materials. And also, I want to highlight the importance of generating awareness between all the stakeholders of the value chain of the construction sector, and also to generate and to improve the policies, the standardization framework and the policies about the use of new materials in the construction sector, because sometimes it's a big barrier that we have to cross, and it can only be feasible if we demonstrate the feasibility of the new materials. So if we talk about our research line concerning the sustainability materials, the sustainable materials, in Tecnalia we work in different research lines for improving the materials and to generate new sustainable materials, integrating the circular economy concept in the materials. So the different research lines are characterized by the reduction of the carbon footprint in the new material, above all in the cement-based material, because the cement industry is one of the bigger CO2 emitters of the construction sector. So we try to reduce the carbon footprint of the cement-based product by reducing the clinker in the new cement product, reducing the use of raw materials, the virgin new raw materials, and using instead of raw materials, secondary raw materials recovered from the demolition process. For example, we try to use recycled concrete materials for reducing the clinker content in the cement product and other cement-based product. And we also use novel technologies of carbon capture, carbonation of the recycled aggregates in order to generate negative CO2 footprint materials. This is the first research line of our activity. And after, we develop also new sustainable material for insulation. For example, I have here a novel aerogel. This is a super insulation material, and it is manufactured with recycled aggregates. It's silica-rich recycled aggregate or silica-rich waste from the demolition activities. So basically, from that, this is a fine recycled aggregate from concrete. We are ready to obtain a novel advancing material for super insulation of the new building. So you can see here, maybe you cannot sit here because we are, it's a very big room, no? But this is a kind of smoke, no? This is a very light material and it's composed of 90% of air. And, okay. So, and talking about this material also, I liked also the industrial symbiosis, no? Between also the construction sector and another economic sector, no? Because the material it can be also employed in other sectors, not only in the construction sector, like the oil, gas, and pharmaceutical, etc., etc. After that, we have also other research lines, no, about new biomaterials and other ways to improve the use of material in the construction sector. But those are the most important ways to reduce the impact, no, of the use of material in the construction.
Very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting applications and developments. Teresa, I would like to ask you a question which is more on how the knowledge goes from the laboratories to the industry and to the final applications, which I think is overall one of the key issues in material research. There are many researchers that started from the lab and then never come at the end of the story. And I think materials is one of those areas, if we specifically think to the construction sector, where innovation should be something that can, I mean, a material product, an innovative material product should be something like plug and play from final end users, which are often not very well prepared, are not, I mean, engineers or scientists that are making the real applications on site. So, which might be the strategies to fill this gap?
Okay, this is a difficult question. I say something that we wonder all the time. Yeah, I say we need to do something. Yeah. I will tell you that I will focus on two things. There are two things that we have to do. We have to focus on putting incentives in one part and the other part. It's not only a question of saying, the scientists, they only think of their own, I say, publication and things like that. It's not only a question that the industry says, okay, I have to keep my things inside and I don't want to cooperate with anybody, but a question of both. Yeah, so we have to put first of all, incentives in the scientific part. And this is something that we know it very well in Spain. I can tell you, for example, that in Spain is something like the 11th country in the world publishing papers, scientific papers in all the subjects, which is something that do not correspond to us, yeah, because of our size. But we are the 30th in innovation, in the innovation rankings. That is something that do not correspond to us anyhow. So there's a gap there that we have to fill. One thing is the incentives for the scientists and for the academia. This is something that we have to change, and we are on the move to change it. On the other side, for the industrial part or for the interfaces, we have to support places or institutions like Tecnalia, for example, that they are, in Spain we call them technology centers, and we are trying to give them support to make them, grow scientifically, but also from the industrial part. So we need to have a bridge in between the basic knowledge and the industry, which is very interesting. And third, we have to put incentives in the companies, because sometimes companies, traditional companies, and I think the construction is a very traditional, or it was very traditional. I think it has changed very much. At least in this country, it has changed very much. I say to start open innovation issues. That means, I open my innovation challenges So maybe you can help me. And for that, sometimes you need new ways of cooperating. So funding is interesting because so public and private cooperation is very interesting for that. But also, it's not only a question of funding, it's a question that if you don't do it this way, you will not get where you want to have. Yeah. So something that's the things that Jaime has showed us. This is something that has to be transferred and manufactured, I say, massively by someone. So you need to transfer it somehow, maybe to a spin-off company, or maybe to another company, as with a royalty agreement or whatever. So there are a lot of means to do it. Just to finish, I can tell you that on Monday we presented the results of a project, or the results of a study that the ODCE has made for us in cooperation with the European Commission to enhance the cooperation between academia and businesses in Spain, which is a big, big problem. But I think it's quite similar in Italy or in some other countries.
Thank you, Lisa. Veronica, you want to complement on that?
Can you hear me?
Veronica, you want to complement? I had the impression you, please.
Thank you. Yes, I want to say, because we had a research project where we looked at how this knowledge of new materials and how they will be installed on construction site actually it gets to the construction workers. And one of the main channels for this is in-house trainings of materials producers. So the reason for this is because we know we all have a shortage in construction workers in Europe, and also the skills gap of the construction workers. But because of the shortage of staff, they cannot go away off-site and do a training for 1 week. There's no way that an SME with 5 construction workers stops their sites for a week. So the most successful training proved in this research project to be construction materials producers that sort of come on site and then train them on site in a container or something like this. And a similar approach we were also discussing on Tuesday when there was the Build Up Skills exchange meeting of the European Commission. I don't know if you're probably all aware of the Build Up Skills projects that are going on. And there was one project that we were also part in, and it was the Bimplement project. And there we developed a container that can be just brought from one construction site to the next construction site and can train the on-site workers whenever they have a few hours on airtightness. So this was a very specific training. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. So, Paul, as president of ECTP, how do you see the future of material in the long term? I mean, as Teresa was saying, construction is a traditional sector, or at least used to be a traditional sector. But I mean, ECTP is really the body who's trying to progress on this respect.
Is it work? Yeah, okay. As I said just before, the excitement is maximum because we have to work on new materials, we have to work on traditional materials, we have to work on reused materials. So there is a lot of work to do. And also, as I said yesterday, the whole world is looking at the construction sector on the climate and environmental objectives. So we have a strong pressure. You have heard from the people before also that the many groups and associations that work on materials should get together to the maximum. So we need to find synergies between the groups that work on materials, definitely. And that's certainly an important thing. It was mentioned quite a few times, the standardization and certification procedure is important because otherwise you cannot start anywhere. And I have not heard the word, but I would say also creating the demand. Creating the demand, so we all know that to start producing a material in the beginning is expensive. If the demand grows, then the price can decrease. So Sometimes it can be done on private markets, but I would say we need also the push probably from the public procurement, when governments in public procurement for infrastructure or buildings can provide the right for an alternative using innovative solutions. So this is certainly a way to pull innovation. So I'd say these are the ways we have to work on. I would like also to mention that we need to say a word on wood also, because the wood experience from those last years is quite intriguing. 2 years ago, everybody was talking about wood. Everybody launched wood construction everywhere. And now we have availability issues, pricing issues. And even to tell you the truth, I was told by colleagues in France who work on a wood tower, during the works, a change in fire safety rules and regulation. So it means that you start from a very exciting project, and then the wood is hard to find, the wood becomes more expensive, and the work you've done has to be corrected, so the business model changes. So we should take a good look at all those problems that we can face, reusing a traditional material, or that could happen with other new materials. So let's be open, let's look at everything. Let's be enthusiastic, but also aware of the many pressures that we have to do the job. It's complicated.
Antonio, from industry point of view, what would you need in terms of maybe incentives, but also from the scientific side? What would you need to make research on materials more effective and more productive and also feasible to make it happen?
There is a question from the manufacturer point of view, and it is that usually our processes or our systems are very tight. They are managed for maximum efficiency, or that is what we hope. So introducing completely new materials into the process is very scary. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to go wrong. So production directors are very wary of introducing totally new materials. So what we are doing is we introduce enhanced attributes to our current products. We introduce nanomaterials to be put in our tiles. We introduce domotics to be part of the same body, the same tile that we have manufactured for so many years. So it is difficult to change from today to tomorrow how we operate our factories. Enhancing innovations or cumulative innovations are easier to implement. Completely new materials are very scary, so they need to be tested. They need to be tested in advance and very thoroughly. Even from the semi-industrial pilot plants that we are currently having in some of our projects in Horizon 2020, to step them up to fully industrial production takes time and a lot of convincing to our production people. So that is one thing, the testing and the fully tested materials before they are introduced to completely industrial production. There is another, I would say, not really new materials, but new ways of presenting our materials. Recently I was reading some articles about how the blockchain technology can be introduced to not only keep track of the traceability of products, but also to also track some of the aspects like the carbon footprint of each product, all the performance features or the technical features are sort of being but enhanced by this more safe blockchain technology. So all these innovations that are adding features to our products, for us is easier to implement, that completely change our systems.
A quick comment. Yes, you touched an important point, which is the testing of the materials. And I would like to make just a very short question to Olga that I think is still connected, maybe, about Open Innovation Testbed. That is a tool that we all from the materials and construction community are thinking to be a good tool. So I would like to ask Olga if there is the intention from the Commission to further use this tool, this instrument in the future. Olga, are you connected? Yeah?
Yes, I'm here. You hear me? I'm here. I don't know if you hear me, Marco?
Yes, please,
okay.
Olga.
So
Yeah.
I'm here. Now, yes, it seems that it will continue with these test beds. Also, they are using in different areas, not only in the area of materials that initially was, we can set in the area of industrial research, that was cluster 4. But under cluster 5, for instance, in the case of the hydrogen technologies, it will be employ this model for further developing the things in this field. So it's a model that is still to be applied.
Thank you, Olga. Christian.
Yes, I don't know if you hear me because I'm connected.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jamie, in your research joint work with your cooperation partners, so with companies, what do you see after your research then the main implementation challenges, and how do you think can they be overcome?
It's a good question. I see mainly 3 or 4 main challenges or barriers that we can to overtake, in order to implement the new sustainable materials. For me, the most important are all non-technological barriers. The first one is the standardization. We cannot apply a material without having a standardization framework that allow us to employ it. For example, we have a very big challenge in the concrete product that we can only employ 20% of coarse recycled aggregate. And I think we have to work with the standardization bodies in order to improve those standards. The second barrier for me is the gap in the supply chain that Paul commented before. We see that there is a lack of supply of certain recycled material, or secondary raw materials, because there is not a demand in the supply chain. So there is a big gap there, and we have to connect the supplier or the producer of the secondary raw material between the final applier, like Caravan or other product manufacturer. And maybe the third most important barrier is the awareness and the confidence in the final appliers. So there is a lack of confidence in recycled material or other alternative materials. We come back to the comfort of the sector that we were talking about before. And there is a lack of confidence in the quality of the new secondary raw material, and we have to make an effort in the awareness of all the stakeholders of the value chains. And maybe it can be feasible employing a technological solution, like traceability solution or other quality tools that ensure the confidence of the different in the final applier finally. And maybe there is a fourth barrier, but I think it's not so important. And the other is an economical barrier. Up to now, we didn't employ recycled material or other sustainable materials because it's more expensive than virgin materials, not the raw materials. So, but this paradigm is changing now because we have an economical instrument that that enhance the use of secondary raw materials, and the companies are more and more using those secondary raw materials, no, in their product.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. That really corresponds to what we also as a cement manufacturer experience: standards, availability of materials, confidence of customers, and economical aspects. We are slowly getting to the end, so we would like to ask the audience if you would have any question to the panelists. It is the right moment not to be shy at this point in time. Please, the first one was here. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Maria. I work for the European Recycling Industry Confederation, and since we are talking about recycling materials, I was wondering, because Horizon 2020, Horizon Euro, or these kind of programs are to support policies such as the European Green Deal or the new Circular Economy Action Plan, but right now there is no target on recycling content, and there's no target on recycling rate in the construction sector. What do you think about that? If the construction sector is ready for this, for example, to establish a recycling content on secondary raw materials, for example, or if it's what? Okay.
So recycling content, at least in the concrete industry, we are using this. We are doing recycling, but there are a few constraints. So the standard itself, we are not allowed to use the recycled sand in fresh concrete. In most countries, that's the 0.2 millimeters fraction. In other countries, it's the 0.4. So it's simply not allowed to do that. We have performed huge research programs in France, Russie Béton, for example. In Germany, there's also one, and we hope that the standard will be changed in the nearer future. So in Switzerland, it's used. In the Netherlands, it's also used to some extent, but obviously, without the standard allowing for the use, we cannot have a minimum content there. Then secondly is that the material, the limitations of the material, the availability. So even if we would use all the recycled material from deconstruction being available, well, that is roughly today at 20% of the, depends a little bit on the country, 20% of the needs we have. Yeah, so yeah, you could ask for something, but if you would ask for a minimum of whatever, it's just not there. Does it at least partly answer your question? Good? Paul, you want to add?
Yes. Just to complement what Christian said, as we are speaking, the Commission is working with an expert group on such numbers. And there was a public consultation a few weeks ago on the subject, where the Commission was proposing the number of 30% of introduction of recycled materials in projects. It was on consultation, and the issue that was answered by the construction sector was to say, will it be available and at what price? But at least there is a number under discussion, and normally a document should come out in February with the numbers on recycling obligations and reuse obligations. It's part of, I tell you the magic word, taxonomy, which is the classification of economic activities. It's the regulation on sustainable finance. It's very complicated, more than the cat we saw there in the presentation. It's really complicated.
Thank you so much, Paul. We have the very last question from the audience. Please go ahead. We have another 1 or 2 minutes, and then we should close.
was willing to comment on and build on the comments of Antonio and Teresa on how to succeed on the technology transfer to industry, because I think in the material field we have seen that a lot of research has been done. We have reached to very nice prototypes like the ones shown by Jaime, but we are failing to transfer them to industry. And one of the points, I think, is the investment which is required for the upscaling. And for example, in the bio-based material area, we are seeing that traditional industry is not willing to take the risk to invest in machinery and so on to upscale new technologies because it's very expensive for them. If you go to the, for example, paper industry, that they have probably, they are closer in how to process these new materials. They say that they don't see the demand because it's not their major focus, and we don't have instruments to fund or to support the process for startups or new companies to assume these investments. Because, for example, in Spain or at regional level, most of the programs are on TRL 4, 5, or 6. So we are facing, I think, a real so-called valley of death in order to bring those nice prototypes into I don't know, 20,000 square meter production to do some testing and to prove to the clients that they can work and they can work even better than the traditional materials. So this is my comment.
Good, thank you, Jesus. You have a German moderator here of that session who wants to finish on time. So I think we are slowly to the end. I would like to thank you, that we thank all very much to Paul, Antonio, Veronica, Jamie, and Teresa for their excellent contribution to this roundtable. I really appreciated that. I also very much appreciated that Olga and Marco gave us their insights. Thanks a lot so much. And for you, I hope you also gained some value out of the session and that you will enjoy the break, even though it's a bit shorter than foreseen and even though there's no coffee at this point in time. But please feel free to get in touch with our colleagues here as long as they are there to ask your complementary questions. And finally, thank you also to Marco for co-chairing this.
Thank you, Christian.
Bye-bye.
No, no hay que hacer nada.
Perfecto.
Una duda, siempre normalmente dicen que un poco hacia, como así para arriba. Hacia arriba. Pero nunca... Una manera de llamar la atención. Vamos a esperar a mi speaker a última hora. Okay. Yeah, I think we are all now ready. So welcome to the session on circular economy in this ECTP conference. I would like to thank Gianmarco, the co-chair of this session, for being part of it and having helped us to put this forth and in the conference. And also, of course, to the 3 speakers on site and to the, hopefully, a speaker online. We'll see when he has to talk if he's available or not. So just a few words, because we have like 4 keynote speakers that we would really like to give them the time to explain the concept and the views and the inspiration about the circular economy. So I don't want to take much time. Also, Gianmarco will give a few words, and then we move right away to the presentations. As a brief introduction on this session, I think if we would be to be asked what topic is like the current trend, the hottest topic at the moment in Europe, I would say that definitely circular economy is the topic, even more than digitalization. I think for years we've been talking about recycling, the digital issues, things here and there, but at the moment it's been like a surge in the economy. It's been a surge. Now everybody is talking about circular economy. It's a topic that is not affecting only our sector, but it's actually affecting cross-sectorial. It's affecting the building sector, the automotive, the land, agriculture. All the sectors are involved. It crosses the different industries. You are able to generate relationships between the different sectors. So if you are really meant to have an impact in the sustainable built environment, you really need to start considering the circular economy issues. For that reason, I think the topic is being highly recognized by the Commission in Horizon Europe and in a lot of policies. We are also talking a lot these days about the regional effect, the implementation, how to positively affect on the sustainable built environment. And this is a topic that, even if it's broad, it's very aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, it's very general and so on, but this is a very regional topic. This is a topic that it really happens in the local communities. It really happens with the people in the center. So I think it's really an opportunity as a construction sector to take a lead in this topic across all industries and to really make an effect on the built environment. Just a few words of introduction, and I would like also to give the floor to Gianmarco so he can also say some few words, and then we start with the presentations. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Javier, for the introduction. I'm here again. I was here up to a few minutes ago, but I'm here again. Just a few words. I think really the construction sector has several features for which circular economy is very important. I mean, construction sector is the largest consumer of raw materials in the world. Has a huge impact on energy, a huge impact on sustainability, on economy, on our daily life. And I think that it is time to start thinking about circular economy in a different way, not only thinking to the recycling of materials or reuse of some components, but really trying to figure out how the different aspects that are involving the construction sector and the built environment overall might be thought in a circular way. Actually, we can think about circularity of resources, circularity of data, circularity of time, spaces. There are many different possibilities, but as a matter of fact, this is not really happening right now. So there are still some challenges, some barriers, and so this is how we are thinking to structure this session right now. Basically, it is definitely a multidisciplinary problem, a multi-sectorial problem, as Javier also was saying before, which requires different stakeholders, different point of view. And that's why we are having a session where we have 4, I would say, inspirational talks about, from different point of views, scientific and technological, financial, research, many industry, so different point of views, and then we will have some roundtable discussion with all of you to go into more details. So the first speaker I'm very happy to introduce is Susanna Seitz. Susanna is a Sustainable Development Director at Harup. She has over 20 years of experience as a sustainability advisor with strong skills in system thinking and integrated design. Her key focus areas include green infrastructure, whole life cycle assessment, health and well-being, and user experience design of projects, as well as sustainable performance metrics. Susanna, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gianmarco, for the introduction. And I'm really happy to be here today, and I will be talking about how cities can transition towards a circular model. And I would like to start talking about circular economy, the concept. When we talk about circular, we are talking basically about keeping the resources, the products, materials in the value chain as long as possible, keeping really the value that everything that has been manufactured can retain. When we talk about economy, we are talking basically about everything else. We are talking about how we grow, where we live, where we work, how we develop ourselves. And traditionally, it has been a linear mindset linking how we develop and the resource we take. When we talk about transitioning to a circular economy model, we are talking about thinking about how can we balance this growth with the impact that we are having in the other aspects. So a circular model is itself something that is really finding this equilibrium. And one way of addressing it is if we start separating each one of the impacts, decoupling all those impacts and understanding how relate to each other, it is a good way of start to understand what is the circular economy model. If every service that we take, every product that we consume, we start thinking what is the human well-being impact, what is the economic impact, what is the resource impact, and what is the environmental impact, we will be able to take the right decisions and really understand how can we improve this model. In fact, like if we are looking at a circular economy model, it will be about responding these 3 questions. Is it good for the economy? Is it good for society? Is it good for environment? And if the answer is positive to the 3 of them, we will be talking about circularity. And how we do that? Well, the RESOLVE framework developed by the MacArthur Foundation is setting up different actions. It's a strategy that is going to help us to understand what are the levers that we can use for really transitioning towards a circular model. This framework is really trying to promote the concept of regeneration. We have to really think about every resource that we take from our biosphere as something that we have to return at some point, keeping at the value and helping to restore the natural systems. It's about shifting to renewable energy and renewable materials. It is about really thinking about what is the end of the life cycle of everything that we are taking from our system. It's about sharing, transitioning to a sharing economy, sharing spaces, sharing services, sharing mobility, for example. This is a different model that we have to transition to. It is about optimization of the resources, everything that we take, the way we design, the way we think. It's about really thinking about how can we make this more efficient. It is about keeping things, products, systems, services in the loop as much as we can. Extending the lifespan of everything that we manufacture is the best way of really transitioning to a circular economy. It is about changing material services to virtual services, material products to virtual products, such a way that our impact is really diminished. And it's about changing the way we think. It's about embracing new technologies. And also, we have to think about the quality of interventions. Gianmarco was saying before, it is not just about recycling. If we think about frameworks like the 9R frameworks, it is setting hierarchy in how we tackle circular economy. Circular economy is not just about recycling. It is about getting back and maintaining not just the product, the materials that can get back to the production cycle. It is about retaining also the thinking, the effort, the labor, the information, the data that were invested in manufacturing this product as much as we can. And we can do that only through reusing, rethinking, repurposing, remanufacturing. At the end of the change of the 9 Rs, we have recycling. But it's about really keeping the most of the value embedded in each product as much as we can. Another way of looking at that is separating what are the technological cycles and the biological cycles of every product. You can see here in the screen this butterfly diagram, the name is like that because of the shape of that, and then we can separate that. The technological cycles are about really maintaining this value I was mentioning as much as we can. It is about not just the content, the product, it's about, as I was saying, the information, the data, all the value inherent to the product that we miss. And the biological cycles is about understanding that every piece of material that we take from the biosphere, we should be thinking about not just how to maximize its value over the life cycle and expand this value, it is about how we return it to the biosphere in a way in which we are going to contribute to the regeneration of our natural capital. So it is about this mindset of everything that we take, we have to think about how we take it back with minimum waste and minimum use of additional resources. And how we do that, really, we are a world of city living. Cities are our opportunity. And in this context, I would like to walk you how the policy is also evolving in this context. We need to understand that the Green Deal is the growth strategy for Europe. It is a strategy aiming for taking us to a neutral region by 2050, and we see between the different action plans that have been released over the last months, there is one that is extremely important, that is the circular economy, that is the topic that we are tackling today. And it is really needed a taxonomy, an understanding of a common language that is going to help us to understand what is circular in terms of supporting the transition to a circular economy, what is sustainable. And for doing that, the European Union developed a taxonomy, which is really a classification system of all the economic activities that can contribute to sustainable development in different environmental categories, 6 of them: climate change adaptation, mitigation, transition to a circular economy, water resource management, pollution prevention control, and enhancement of biodiversity. If we look at the first of them, there are already technical screening criteria that are really explaining what do we mean by sustainable in a very pragmatic and tangible way. If we look at the draft of the circular economy taxonomy, we can see that is already started to look at things that are beyond minimizing waste production in construction sites. It is looking at how we think for the construction, how we start understanding the impact of our activity in the construction sector through the development of life cycle assessments, how we are thinking about designing more efficiently, how we are managing the construction over the whole life cycle of the building through the implementation of monitoring practices, the implementation and the development of digital twins, new tools that are going to help us to understand the impact over the whole life cycle. And then how we transition our cities. Well, for transition in the city, we need to understand the vinculation between the built environment and the rest of the cycles, the urban life, how the people interact with the city, and all these technological and biological cycles that we were mentioning before. We need to understand the relation between the systems, like using an integrated system approach. And if we land this to the built environment, at the end, these three components of circularity are essential: design out of waste and pollution, keep products in the value chain as much as we can, and regenerate our systems. Talking about the built environment is straightforward. We have to enhance building reuse, maintain the buildings in use as much as we can, retrofit in alignment with the renovation wave, switch to low-carbon materials and design more efficiently, and recover, reuse, and repurpose. But when we look at the operational side, we are also looking beyond energy retrofit towards transition from ownership models to service models. And we see that in a city level in many different aspects. We see these active mobility schemes with shared mobility systems. We see new business models that are emerging that are focused 100% on taking back products into the value chain and repurposing them. We are looking at sharing mobility schemes like car sharing schemes, and looking at even space sharing schemes, which are really emerging also in this situation of pandemic as one solution for promoting interaction again. And the opportunity is really in the city, because the city has the density for creating these consumption patterns and flows that are directed to circularity. It has the scale for creating these business models, the capacity to influence with new business models, with new governance models, the capacity to attract finance and investment, and also to enhance and promote community collaboration. It is the catalyst for the transition to a circular economy. And how that looks like? I mean, a city that is circular, it abandons the linear economy. It goes from an economy that takes less and disposes less. It is efficient in the way it functions. It is technologically developed using monitoring systems that allows the city to control the performance over the life cycle, observing all the stages of the life cycle of the construction and the built environment. It is inclusive, allowing everyone to access to these services, and it's socially developed, promoting collaborative models that are going to generate more social cohesion. And that requires a vision of a city that is attractive and has to be promoted so it attracts investment. Green and thriving neighborhoods are being the key for the transition to circular, neutral, and healthy models. And just to finish, just wanted to highlight there are some challenges that we have to face. One is the design thinking. We need to start thinking in a different way. Thinking efficiently is about using the resources in a more clever way, understanding what are the new qualities of the materials, and also understanding how we get the data that are going to allow us to evaluate what is good or bad. So that's something that is a challenge, data quality. Understanding the construction process, how we measure the impact during the construction, understanding how we build in such a way that we can really address retrofits in a more clever way, like this scheme of circular design where we build by layers that are defined according to the durability of the systems. It is about understanding how we manage the operational stage and also the impact of the maintenance phase of the buildings in a clever way through the development of digital twins that help you to the maintenance of the building. And finally, thinking about the construction. We are not designing for the construction. Our demolition systems are not designed for really addressing the disassembly of materials, keeping the integrity of these systems so they can be reused. The logistic needs to be developed so we can really store, repurpose, and put back these systems into the value chain. And finally, the market. People need to be having the guarantees that the materials that you are taking from one building to another building are going to keep the integrity and the characteristics that allow like a trust on these systems. So with all this challenge, I just get back the word to Giancarlo, and thanks a lot for listening.
Thanks a lot, Susanna. Our next speaker should be online, so let's hope that Christopher is already connected. We'll find out. Let's.
Hello?
Yeah. Well, at least the presentation is on, so.
Yeah.
Christopher, can you hear us? And especially.
I can hear you. Good morning, everyone.
Awesome, because that's always like a mystery if you will be, if these things will be working out. Okay, great. So I will be introducing, and it's my pleasure to introduce Christopher Elcuri from Intesa Sanpaolo Innovation Center in Italy. Christopher graduated in Industrial Biotechnologies with a master's degree on circular economy, and he's been working since 2018 for Intesa Sanpaolo Innovation Center, and specifically in the circular economy lab. There, through an open innovation approach, Intesa Sanpaolo is helping the circular transformation of companies and to disseminate circular economy principles and know-how. In the CE lab, he continuously analyzes the state-of-the-art of circular innovative business models and technologies. Thanks for being with us, Christopher. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me with you. It's a pity I cannot be present with you today, but thankfully for the technology, we will manage to do the presentation as it should be done. So accelerating the circular transformation in the built environment. In this presentation, I would be presenting a bit what the bank, Intesa Sanpaolo, what the group Intesa Sanpaolo can do and is doing in accelerating the circular transformation in general, with a glimpse and a focus on the built environment. So, okay, I don't see the second slide, maybe. Okay, sorry. So, thank you also for Susanna for the first introduction that was very clear, presenting the business models and presenting the essence of the circular economy, because also us as Intesa Sanpaolo and as Intesa Sanpaolo Innovation Center, we believe that the circular economy is not just about recycling. It's not just about looking at this system and say, let's reduce the negative impact from it, but actually it's to rethink and redesign our system. It is known now already to all of us that this linear system based and characterized by taking, making, and wasting resources is not anymore, not just sustainable. Of course, it's not sustainable, but it started to generate also many negative impacts for the society, for the economy, and for the environment. The demand is growing. And we know it because the growth of the population is just exponential, and because we need more resources to the economic growth. And it's thanks to this linear economic system that we had growth in our economy for now. But if on one hand, this linear economy produced so much growth, on the other hand, it produced a lot of impact and made us think about it again and look at it and see how we can not just make it better. So not just look at it and say how we can make sustainable this linear economic system, but try to see what was wrong in our system and try to rethink the system again in a circular vision. And a vision in which, as Susanna was saying, in which we rethink the resource from the redesign. We redesign our products and our models of using the products and producing the products in a way that a cycle has to be created so the value will not be lost and that we will not influence other sectors, the environment, the society in a negative way. So this is for us what is circular economy. And that is really represented in the three principles that we saw also before: designing out waste and pollution from the system, keeping products and material in use as much as we can, and regenerate natural systems like the life cycle and the biological cycle. So in this way, we see how the circular economy can re-switch, let's say, our economic system and present us not just with a sustainable strategy, but with a new economic paradigm. These circular economy principles not just will offer advantages for the environment and the society, but present a lot and huge strategic advantages for companies and for the economy as a whole. In fact, linear economy represents many risks. Let's think about price volatility. the supply chain inefficiencies that we saw very clearly now in the COVID crisis, and the consumer and regulatory trends that are going, as we saw also with the taxonomy, and as we are as we well know that the Generation Z and the generation of the 2000s are very keen and they started to think before buying a product that this product should be, let's call it, sustainable or circular. So all this framework represent new linear risks for the companies who want to continue business as usual. And the circular economy, on the other hand, will represent, together with business opportunities, a competitive strategic way in order to reduce the risks. And this is what we will see also later in more detail. Passing to the second slide, yes, we need to change the model. As I said before, it's not enough to look at our model and say, okay, no, we need to make it more sustainable, but we need to change it. And looking more in detail at the greenhouse gas emissions, or at the emissions in general, this is a study done by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation with Material Economics that shows us that if we adopt, let's call it, a sustainable strategy, or if we transition to renewable energy, we will cut the emissions up to around 55% of the whole emissions caused by our system. The rest, 45%, is actually due to the way we produce and to the way we consume. And it's just through circular economy models, circular economy business models and principles that we can go and cut this remaining emissions. And this is clearly represented by the principles of the circular economy, in which designing out waste and pollution will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions across the value chain of different sectors. Keeping products and material in use will retain the energy embodied in them, so we will not need to produce more and generate more emissions, and regenerating natural system to sequester or to catch and capture carbon and return it to the soil and to the circular biological system. So why Intesa Sanpaolo is looking that much in depth at the circular economy? We will see it in this slide. It's a matter of strategic resilience. It's a matter of strategic competitiveness as a group. And it's a matter of a positive impact for the society that we see ourselves responsible as everyone, every single citizen to every single company should have to. And this is why, since December 2015, Intesa Sanpaolo as a group is a financial services strategic partner of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which represent today one of the most influential and authoritative player on circular economy worldwide. So together with the foundation, what we try to do is, first of all, we try to learn. We try to learn together with other partners that are in the network of the foundation about the circular economy business models, and we try to analyze them, and so we can understand how to better transition toward that system. And once we learn about circular economy models and circular economy principles, we try to disseminate them within our reach, within the reach of our banking group, and through the network of our clients and companies. And after that, we try to see through our instruments, whether financial or innovation, and we will see them also later, we try to see through our instruments how we can, first of all, shape and redesign the instruments of the bank in order to produce a better impact on circular economy and to help our network and the network that we can reach to transition towards circular economy. And in order to see if we can also give them advices, so act as an innovation consultant for these companies in order to help them and assist them to the transition. So for this and together with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and with Bocconi University, we studied the circular economy potential on the risking and what kind of opportunities can it present to the financial sector. Because it is true that the finance and the financial sector can help the transition to a circular economy, but from the other hand, the circular economy also brings a lot of opportunities and advantages for this sector. And let's just stop on two. This research was done on more than 200 companies, international companies, and went to assess the circularity score of the company and how does this circularity score influence the level of de-risking on default. And the result of this paper that is already online, and you can find it on the website of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, is that the more circular a company is, the lower its risk of defaulting on debt is over both 1 year or 5 year time horizon. And more importantly, this decrease of level of risk is also seem to also be related to a superior risk-adjusted return. So the higher the level of circularity is, it is associated also with the superior risk-adjusted return. So by these two results, or let's say first results of that research that is still ongoing, we can see why the financial sector is also interested from a strategic approach to applying the circular economy. Passing more in detail to a very, very, very important topic, as was said before, the construction system and the cities as themselves are done mainly of real estate and construction and healthy living and working space and housing is actually a crucial sector that grabs and that touch also other sectors. When we look at the circular economy, we look at a holistic approach, we look at a systemic approach, and one sector that represents the most this idea is actually the construction and the built environment. So looking more in depth and trying to analyze in a macro view the built environment, we see that the linear framework represented devastating effect that are worth thinking. The drivers of these of this change are present in many data. We can see 60% of European office today space is unused. Actually, the place where I'm sitting, and maybe now for COVID reasons, but really we have a lot of spaces here in Italy and in many cities in Europe that are just simply unused. So rethinking the model also from this point of view is crucial. We keep on constructing, but actually we have a lot of space that are worth to be requalified and revalorized. Construction materials and the building sector are responsible for more than 1/3 of the global resource consumption at the same time. And up to 40% of urban solid waste is construction and demolition waste. I think you better than me know all these data. So these are a part of the picture of the linear system that makes it imperative to pass to a circular economy. And yes, it is time for circular economy. It is time to rethink the model from all its sides, starting from the design, passing to the usage, and going to the end of life when it's necessary in order to recover and to value capture all this. I'm not going to enter in the details because we already saw them in a better way with Susanna before, so I'm going to pass to the next slide. So what Intesa Sanpaolo and the Intesa Sanpaolo Innovation Center decided to do for that? Well, so the circular economy is and was present in the strategic plan of the group since 2018. So in its business plan, Intesa Sanpaolo decided to support the action toward the transition to the circular economy. And for that reason, financially, it decided to introduce a 6 billion circular economy platform in order to finance the most innovative projects, whether in Italy or in Europe and internationally. And in order to do so, these projects or these companies are evaluated based on 5 main criteria, 5 eligibility criteria, circular economy criteria that were actually developed together with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And these 5 criteria are solutions that extend the product life of goods and materials, utilization of renewable cycled resource and input, increase the efficiency and effectiveness of resources consumption, products that can be fully recycled or composted, and innovative technologies that enable circular economy business models. And plus to these 5 eligibility criteria, the plafond decided also to finance in part what we call also green technologies or green projects that actually are more of a sustainable approach, but that work in pushing toward a circular economy system, and these being production and transmission to renewable energy, energy efficiency of production process and buildings, sustainable management of natural resources, and soil biodiversity. So having this in mind, we launched since 3 years this platform, and we already finance in all the sectors and in many sectors a lot of projects. And hereafter, I'm going to show some of them based on the built environment. So having more specific look in the built environment, these criteria have verticals, have vertical indicators in them, and that being for the product life extension, redesign space, modular design, materials bank, For renewable resources, we can have passive buildings, so buildings that do not need an energetic input in order to maintain a good environment inside. New materials, whether bio-based or recycled or other innovative materials that can contribute to the circularity of these buildings. Closing the loops, water, waste. And for the criteria resource efficiency and effectiveness, some indicators are sharing solutions, so sharing spaces, zero waste, no use of toxic materials, and example of urban farming. For recycled products, we can have also materials banks that help also the end of life of product to be good recovered or recycled, design for disassembly and reusing and recycling. And for enabling technologies, we can think of all the digital new technologies like Internet of Things, 3D printing, blockchain, and big data that can also have the potential to contribute and to speed the transition to a circular construction. Example of financing that we already did, this is one case study about a company that we financed because they wanted to install smart flowers and smart trees that include in them photovoltaic panels and installation of these wine trees in their parks. So the energy produced by these, let's call them smart trees, and these photovoltaic trees will help power charging stations in the car parking and also the street lighting that are around the company. So this goes under the criteria 2 of circular activities powered by energy from solar, wind, or conversion of biomass to energy. Another case that we financed was this company that produced tobacco here in Italy that decided to recover and requalify a huge historic industrial area in which actually they received many certification and were a case study of circular design, enhancing the biodiversity of the area and requalifying all the materials and products that were in this area that were actually unused and risked to be demolished. So this goes under the criteria of an indicator of reuse, repair, product regeneration or refurbishment. So having seen these two financial examples for our financial instruments of helping circular economy, Intesa Sanpaolo Innovation Center believes that as a group that have a large network of companies and of players in its sphere of influence, we should also do more than finance. And this is why we established the Circular Economy Lab that was founded in 2018 in Milan together with Gary Pro Factory in order to accelerate the transformation of the circular economy through an open innovation approach involving also all the different actors. So let's say we know that a company and the automotive is doing a project that is circular that can also relate to another company that is doing digital technologies with another company that is doing construction. We try with an open innovation approach to involve all these players, and we think with them with an innovation advisory approach to disseminate first of all the know-how, generate the networking opportunities, and try to push towards this collaboration to create projects of real circular economy impact. So as I said, the innovative ecosystem of partners that we try to involve is national in Italy and international. And with this, we started since 2018 a whole approach of open innovation projects that included many research centers and universities in our network, a lot of startups, and many companies also. So what we do, we call it circular journey. This action in which we try to connect all these different companies and different business models in order to collaborate to switch to the transformation of their business models through education. So we try to disseminate the circular economy knowledge across the different sectors. Through connection, we try to make events or make opportunities in where these companies can connect, and through circular innovation, a circular advisory aimed at SMEs and corporates, in which we try to analyze with them their circular economy level and we monitor with them their business model, and we try with an open innovation approach to see how we can help them by connecting them to other players or to startups in order to speed their transformation to a circular economy. An example of this circular open innovation was last year, a huge project that we did with Microsoft, and in which were included many construction companies, and in which we tried to bring the state-of-the-art startups from all the sectors. And interesting for the built environment is that the built environment and the companies that were in the construction sectors were the companies that actually were interested to all kind of technologies and all kind of startups. So this shows how much this transformation need, as Gianmarco was saying before, need to be cross-sectorial, need to be influenced from all the sectors. So these kind of open innovation projects, as we saw directly with these companies, bring a lot of advantages for the companies, from competitive positioning to business opportunities, creating synergies among the different players, and reputation in the eyes of the consumers and the entire business community, other than, of course, bringing a huge positive impact to the environment in their action. And to conclude, as I was all the time repeating, a holistic approach is needed because it's a systemic transformation. We cannot think about it as a one-player action and transformation. So we need to rethink the model in a systemic approach. We need to rethink the model in which finance can play a big role into pushing public and private collaboration will play a big role into bringing the right policy to be put in use, and a collaboration and symbiosis between the different actors and between the world of the innovation and startups with the world of the real estate and the construction is needed. We should look at it as a huge circle and start to collaborate together and a good symbiosis and synergetic transformation in order to speed up this systemic and mostly needed transformation. And with this, I concluded. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christopher. Very, very interesting. A lot of interesting points that we will further analyze later. So the next speak is from Mona Nassereddine. Mona, after pursuing a master's degree in sustainable construction materials, joined CSTB as a research and expertise engineer in the circular economy division. She works particularly on research projects related to product and building eco-design and circularity, with a regular participation in the SEN Standardization Subcommittee on Circular Economy in Construction. Mona has developed a profound interest in construction products and their environmental impact after her experience in the domain of green building certification and on-site experience in renovation projects. Mona, please, thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to present CSTB's circular economy strategy. I will quickly present CSTB. For those who don't know, CSTB is the Scientific and Technical Center for Buildings in France. In CSTB, we work on 5 different types of activities: research and expertise, evaluation, certification, the diffusion of information, and technical experiments, covering construction products, buildings, and their integration in the district and in the city. I will not talk about the importance of making the transition from a linear to circular economy, as it was very, very much discussed by Suzanne and by the presenter before me. I will speak a little about CSTB's research strategy, which is oriented toward facing the emerging issues in the construction sector. One of these principal strategies is about circular economy and building resources, and it's one of the main strategies for our research, for the research and expertise. I will introduce the Circular Economy Roadmap at CSTB, at the Circular Economy Division. As you can see, our Circular Economy Roadmap is based on 3 main axes. The first axis is about the knowledge of material flows and stocks in the existing building stock, with an aim to characterize products, materials, and waste on a scale that covers urban and territorial scales. Our second axis, research axis, is about the valorization of the existing, which covers the development of reuse, selective deconstruction practices, and creating tools for the construction sectors and for construction actors. And the third axis is about the anticipation of circular economy at the design level and how to integrate circularity and the notion of circularity at product eco-design and building eco-design levels, with a focus on building reversibility, data capitalization, and the optimization of the first end of life of products. And we have a specific theme related to durability and increasing the lifespan of products and buildings, and which is a transversal theme which covers these three axes. Now I will go on to talk about each of these three axes and highlight certain projects that we are working on in each of them. Starting with the first axis, which is about the amelioration of the knowledge on material flows and stocks, our strategy is basically to develop waste and resource management tools in order to characterize the materials contained in buildings in an existing territory. The approach that we use and the tool that we are currently developing manipulates spatial data with data from national databases in France that describe building components. The aim of this tool, the results are the quantification and the location of the flows of materials and waste issued from certain renovation and deconstruction scenarios that we apply to a certain territory in order to characterize the valorization potential of these material flows in terms of reuse potential and recycling potential. In the tool that we are currently developing and we have been developing for a long time, we also integrate the modelization of social and economic impacts associated with the management of these flows that the tool quantifies, the flows of products, the materials, and the wastes. And we aim to work with territories because the tool analyzes the resources and wastes generated at a territorial level. The aim is to work with specific territories in France to develop the recycling and reuse operational strategies in order to project the needs to develop the certain recycling and reuse industry in these tools. So this is the project or the tool that I have been talking about. It's a project we call BTP Flux. It's a material flow analysis model, an urban mining tool. And here we can see the results of the analysis applied on Île-de-France region. We can see that the tool produces results on the quantities of materials and their types at the same time generated, as well as in terms of construction period and in terms of location and in terms of the types of buildings, whether collective houses, individual houses, office buildings, industrial buildings, and educational buildings. Going to the next axis, which is about the valorization of the existing building stock, I will be talking about two main strategies. The first is related to selective deconstruction, and the second to our reuse strategy. So, talking about selective deconstruction, our strategy at CSTB is to set an action plan for the development of selective deconstruction practices in the building and construction sector. We have analyzed the current practices and their development in line with the new requirements and the new urgency to achieve circularity in the building sector. And we have been working on developing methodological guides to integrate recommendations on roles and responsibilities of actors involved in each step of a deconstruction process, while working on identifying and quantifying environmental and economic indicators to evaluate a selective deconstruction process. And we have also worked on developing operational tools to help develop selective deconstruction, like the use of BIM models for a selective deconstruction operation. When it comes to reuse, our strategy is about setting up and developing a reuse strategy to integrate reuse in construction operations. We have been working for a long time now in France and on European projects on developing technical guides for the evaluation of the performances of certain product categories in light of reuse. And we have been working closely with actors involved in the reuse value chain, with auditors and project owners, constructors, and insurers in order to familiarize them with the rules and reclamation process, with reconditioning platform or reuse actors, as we like to call them, to acknowledge their role in this process, and with insurance companies in order to normalize reuse in an insurance point of view. An example of a project we are currently developing is a digital platform associated with the new regulatory national PEMD diagnostic, which is the Product, Equipment, Materials and Waste Audit in France, which will become obligatory as of 2022 for deconstruction projects that have an area which is greater than 1,000 meters square, and for renovation operations, for significant renovation operations. So CSTB has been working directly with the Ministry of Ecological Transition in France and with ADEME in order to develop the template which will be used for this diagnostic, this audit, and in order to develop and design this digital platform that will capitalize these diagnostics and will allow the use of these data when it's capitalized in one place, one platform. And we have been working closely with a network of actors that will be involved in this declaration and in this platform in order to familiarize them with the use of this new audit. Another project is about exploring the potential of BIM and the digitization of two existing pilot sites in France, which were set for deconstruction in 2021, since 2020 and in 2021. So we had started by in CSTB by working with the actors involved in these two processes. First, by trying the approach of creating a BIM model for a building that will be deconstructed, and for developing the methodology and the tool prototypes for the deconstruction process, working closely with the actors involved in order to familiarize them with such a process. Now, with the third axis, which is about integration of circularity at the design level, our strategy is based on three main themes. The first is about developing knowledge about the principles of building reversibility and transformability, while trying to precise the criteria needed in order to integrate reversibility, the notion of reversibility in new projects, in the design of new projects, and in the study of the reversibility of existing projects. Because with COVID now, we are all faced with the problem of the presence of many office buildings that are now empty with the working at distance. So the main topic we are studying in reversibility is the study of how the office buildings will be reversible to become housings. The second point is about developing tools and methods to assess circularity at the building and at the neighborhood scale. And the third one is at the product level, the product eco-design, in which we develop tools that ensure the traceability of newly designed products and their circularity by developing indicators and metrics to assess the circularity. I will be talking about a project that we are working on in this scope. Okay, here I will be talking about two projects. The first one is at the building scale, and the second one will be at the product scale. This first project has been in partnership with Alliance HQE, the Green Building Council in France, and other partners as well. The objective of the project was to propose a methodology to calculate circularity indicators at the building level and to test them on pilot operations. The project started in 2019, and many pilot operations were involved, and the circularity indicators were actually tested. In the part 2 of the project, which is currently ongoing, this methodology is being finalized again, and an online tool is based on this assessment methodology is being developed by CSTB. This tool will allow project actors to analyze their project's standardized energy environment declaration sheet, which is a declaration imposed in France, will be imposed by the new national environmental regulations. And CSTB, as I said, is working on the development of this online tool and has worked closely with other partners on the development of the indicators and the calculation methodology. And this tool will be launched in the end of 2022. The second project is the development of a product eco-design quality sign. It's a project on which I work very closely. So in this project, it started as a research project to develop indicators to assess the circularity of new products. We worked mainly on four circularity indicators. The first is related to the recycled and renewable content in the product. When we talk about renewable, we mean biosourced content and biosourced materials. The three other indicators are related to the end of life of the product. We talk about a demountability indicator which characterizes the potential for a product to be disassembled at the end of its life without damaging it, and in order to facilitate its reuse and recycling. The second indicator characterizes the capacity of a product to be integrated in an end-of-life recycling channel with the potential of being recycled. And the third indicator is a reusability indicator, which characterizes the capacity of a product to be reused at the end of its life and the same function that it was designed for. So these four indicators have been developed, and the project evolved from a research project to a quality sign. These indicators were applied to specific product families, and we are hoping that soon we will be able to enlarge these product families on which the indicators were tested and applied. So that's it from CSTB.
Thank you, Mona. Well, side note from the organization. At 12, there will be a real coffee break, I mean, with coffee, in the Galería de Cristal. Not sure where it is, but just follow the people and we'll find it, okay? But before that, you need to stay because we have our last speaker, and I don't think I need the notes for introducing her. She's Edith Guedella, 16 years experience working in biotechnology, circular economy, sustainability for construction. She's currently the head of the Roads and Environmental Group in Acciona Construction Technology Center. That's why I don't need the papers, because we're colleagues there. In the group, she's leading the group developing technologies on innovation in road construction, materials for the road construction, environmental technologies, as well as sustainable products and services related to sustainability and circular economy in construction. Besides that, she's also the technical leader or technical expert in the construction initiatives for Acciona related to the circular economy and eco-design. So, Edith, thanks for being with us, and the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us to be here. Thank you, Javier, for your presentation. After the presentation from my colleagues talking about this wider perspective of circular economy, I would like to introduce the perspective of a global company and how we integrate circular economy in our projects and in our processes. And just for you to know, for those who don't know Acciona, Acciona is a global company. We operate in more than 40 countries and with more than 38,000 employees all over the world. Our sustainability master plan, our involvement in sustainability strategy, we have been working on that for 20 years now, and our latest sustainability master plan has 4 main pillars, which are people-centric, planet-positive, exponential leadership, and enhanced collaboration. And within these pillars, we integrate some of the aspects of circular economy. And we have some presence in the main sustainability index, so we have sustainability as a strategy in our own company, and it's the motor of our vision. Regarding the low carbon transition, all of our activities have been analyzed, the alignment with the EU Sustainable Finance Taxonomy, and all the projects in which we operate, the 84% of our EBITDA and the 84% of our CapEx are aligned with this EU Sustainable Finance Taxonomy. And we are using this taxonomy to select in which projects we are going to continue and invest. Regarding the definition of circular economy that we follow in our projects is the one that has been mentioned before by Susanna and by Christophe. We take the approach of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation about the three principles of eliminate waste and pollution, circular products and materials, and regenerative nature. And we take both cycles, the mechanical cycle, which is restorative, and the biological cycle, which is regenerative, because we have to keep the value and the highest value of the resources and generate this positive impact into this nature capital regeneration. And that's our perspective to sustainability. If you follow our sustainability master plans from the 2010 sustainability master plan was focused on responsibility. The sustainability master plan in 2015 was focused on resilience, and this late sustainability master plan till 2025 is focused on regeneration. And this is our approach. We go from the sustainable business that we have to a regenerative business, regenerative infrastructure with positive impact. And a positive impact, positive social and environmental impact. And regarding the circular economy and the SDG contributions, we know that the circular economy direct tackles on 80% of the SDGs, but there is a need to cover all SDGs mainly related to this social aspects, and there are other SDGs that are needed to keep this circular economy mainly focused on this alliance and cooperation. As it was mentioned before, I would remark here that this 40% of the greenhouse gases emissions can be is derived from the products, and as Christophe was mentioning, I just wanted to remark the construction the construction sector has a lot to say there, and we have huge opportunities of reducing the greenhouse gases emissions if we perform well regarding products. Regarding our capabilities and in terms of circular economy and SDGs, we are aligned with the circular economy action, European Circular Economy Action Plan. And regarding the forming focus of natural resources and circular raw materials efficient use, global recyclability, waste reduction and integral management, extension of life, durability, reparability and reuse, and hazardous substance replacement. These are just an image to cover all our capabilities in terms of all our business regarding circular economy, from product as a service, circular supply with renewable energies and integral water supply, sharing practices, as we have some businesses relating to green mobility and the association of this mobility with the infrastructure development, waste as a resource, and life extension with refurbishment and renaturalization. And regarding to construction, the construction side of Acciona, I would like to show here some of the examples aligned with the circular economy, the European Circular Economy Action Plan regarding the circular use of excavated soils, and we go deeper in some of these examples along the presentation. Was just to mention the use of the recovery of acid sulfate soils in some projects in Australia, the material recovery targets with of course the application of construction and demolition waste and their use on sites, sustainability performance
and our approach to the EPD of infrastructure projects, durability and adaptability of built assets with some examples of eco-design and composite materials. And we have this approach of introducing an LCA in public assets, and I wanted to mention the LC for Roads project, which was a European-funded project that finished a few years ago, but was an example of introducing these initiatives within the construction process, the construction procurement of roads. And now, going along the whole life cycle of construction, I would like to show you some of the examples that we have in projects, taking into account the whole the different stages of the life cycle. From the design stage, I like to show this this example of eco-design. This is the lighthouse of the port of Valencia that was designed taking into account no maintenance because of the environmental and the environment aspects and the maritime environment. And it was designed in modular pieces, designed for facilitating the maintenance and the disassembly at the end of life, and using tools for the environmental impact assessment under life cycle perspective. And another example of eco-design, but in this case for the substitution of and using less materials. This is the waterproof lining of a tunnel in Spain that was designed to substitute the concrete solution of the tunnel, and in this case also in composite materials. And when performing that, this was an innovative solution, and when performing that, we were using life cycle assessment methodologies to calculate the environmental impact and assess the design. Other example during the construction phase is, in this case, is the M607 road here in Madrid, which is an example of using different ways in the different layers of the road, since the use of construction and demolition waste for the subgrade to the use of higher percentage of reclaimed asphalt pavements, and then use in the surface layer a bitumen which has lignin within the bitumen. And in terms of operation and maintenance, in this case, I would like to show an example of a road where we use self-healing materials that were added in the different layers of the pavement in order to enlarge the durability and reduce the maintenance of the road. And then, of course, at the end of life of the construction, we know very well our own waste, our construction and demolition waste, and we have different examples of the use of higher percentages of aggregate from construction and demolition waste, and to use different demolition techniques in order to use all the materials from the previous buildings that we have on site to use it on the site. Well, three or 4 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to be with in a conference with Ken Wester. He's the creator of the butterfly diagram, and he was talking about the transition between centralized circularity to the collaborative circularity, and I really like this concept that he mentioned, because he highlights the need for collaboration for this distributed circularity.
From now, we have been seeing a lot of decentralized circularity focused on approaches or R&D approaches from protection, and this kind of circularity is, let's say, leaky-free. But when it comes to a distributed circularity with open sources, open collaboration, and materials ecosystem, and with communities, knowledge community, in this case, we have a leaky but nutritious circular economy. And I'd like to remark the need of this leaky and nutritious environment that could help us with this transition to circular economy and this transition to systemic systems. And regarding this collaboration, I would like to show some examples of industrial symbiosis that I have not mentioned before, industrial symbiosis strategies that shows this leaky but nutritious results in terms of industrial synergies. And I just wanted to mention some examples here. This is in Australia, where we collaborated with some industries across the construction value chains for the treatment of acid sulfate soils. And this is a European funded project where we collaborated with the pulp and paper industry, and this is an example of the use of waste paper boiler ash as a soil cement layer with 100% substitution of cement in the soil cement layer in a highway. This is the A33 road in Valencia in Spain. So I just wanted to show some good examples of collaboration. And of course, this is not easy. We still know that there are administrative and technological barriers regarding normative, regarding legislation. We need more circular procurement to introduce this kind of measures, and we need to introduce this life cycle approach in the way we do things. And we also have we still miss some lack of standardization in these new initiatives, but we know that fortunately now there are more and more working groups where normative are being developed, and there are more and more initiatives to use regarding circularity, circular indicators, metrics. And this is a good starting point, but when we want to use it in a real project, there is still more road that and more work that have to be done. But I would like to finish with the opportunities that circular economy have and the investments that are going to be taken in circular economy approaches. And I would like to finish the presentation with these opportunities. And the Circular Economy Action Plan mentions that circular economy could allow the increase of European productivity up to 3% per year till 2030. So we have here an opportunity field that could create a lot of value and positive impact. So thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, very interesting presentation. I think we have time for a couple of questions, one from myself, one from Javier, and maybe one more from the audience. My question is to all of you, and is about, I'm really wondering, we have heard very nice presentations, very nice perspectives. I'm wondering, how much is this really happening in the practice? Do we have data about how much circular economy in the construction sector is taking place? Actually, overall, I think it was 2020, I read some reports stating that overall circular economy was slightly declining in terms of overall figures, but I don't know whether this really applies. So I'm really asking because I don't know, and I think it's important to understand how much this is really happening, and in case which are the main barriers. We have seen already from Edith's presentation some of the barriers, but well, this is my curiosity.
Well, in terms of what I know from different clients, we are asked about introducing measures of circularity and introducing metrics and introducing sustainability initiatives. We see more sustainability initiatives than circular economy specific objectives, but if we finally see it as a systemic approach with this positive impact, we can call it sustainability, but you need the circular economy principles to afford that. But for example, I was thinking about our clients from the Scandinavian countries where they are asking for specific measures about carbon and emissions and initiatives and indexes and materials and circularity in their procurement. So this is happening now, and these are the clients that are asking for that. There are also a lot of companies that are working on this field, and we are offering this. But this is just happening because many countries are aligning their own policies regarding climate change with the specific objectives. And regarding resources, there is a need of introducing circularity approaches to reduce these emissions. So I think there is a movement, and in the next 5 years, we're going to see more measures asked and more different ways of doing things in construction to afford these measures.
Well, if I just can add to what I said, like I think that this is really changing in terms of like we are preparing the ground. I see at least that there are questions that are being made before even design decisions are taken is, shall I even think about building this? Is this needed? So this is really a question that was not even framed like some years ago when we were talking about, for example, roads or transportation infrastructure. So that's a starting point. We see also like frameworks, like the Levels framework that is setting up this design thinking, like considering the whole life cycle of every construction project, and is putting the construction as part of the assessment, setting up qualitative metrics. So that's, again, something that was not considered in any certification system some years ago, and now it's emerging. Now we are starting to see like metrics, and I'm very glad to see the presentation that Mona just gave, because it's really addressing those challenges about creating the data, the metrics, the tools, so we can measure circularity in our projects. So I think, I agree, I mean, I think the landscape is changing quickly, and we are preparing the ground so we can start thinking and overcoming the barriers that the circularity brings. It really requires a mindset change.
If I may add, yes, I think it's happening, and it had already began happening before the COVID crisis, and I think it was accelerated with the COVID crisis, especially with the material scarcity problem in Europe. We had, I'm sorry, I'm going to remove my mask. We had always focused on the energy aspect in the building sector, and now we find that everyone is aware and asks about where the materials are coming from and what we can do to use the materials we have in the existing building stock as a material bank, and to know how much it's happening. I'll give an example of a European project in which we studied the reuse in the northwestern European area, and a statistical survey was held in these countries, and the percentage of the actual reuse practices was a little disappointing. It was a 1% of materials integrated in the building sector right now. But with this project and with other projects, because this project is going to continue, a lot of things were developed and a lot of propositions for policies and for regulations in countries have been proposed in order to work on increasing the circular economy and the building and construction sector.
If I may add also, I don't know if you hear me from here. Okay, yeah, I agree with everyone that has been said. I just wanted to notify just one thing. It's true, there is a lack of metrics and lack of indicators that is actually essential in order to move on and to disseminate the knowledge in the sector. And this, I think, is starting to happen. Maybe not so with the hoping rhythm, but it is happening. I believe there are two factors that we should pay attention of, and they are related to the growing economies, to the developing economies, to the economies that actually are not maybe as let's say like where there is a huge know-how and there is still so much the resources, whether financial or by policy, and I believe here the private and public collaboration is essential in these countries, and it's good if these kind of aspects can be taken in consideration, and the multilateral institutions, whether by the banking or by governments, can play a big role, because when we look at the circularity and as a circularity index, so how much of this is happening, we look at it on a global scale. We don't look at it on a regional or a national scale. So I believe in this, there is a huge responsibility for multilateral institutions to play a crucial role in order to, how we can say, uniform this transition in terms of know-how, knowledge, but also of resources and capabilities to do this transformation together, because if we don't do it together, it won't happen. Thank you.
Okay, not sure if this is, how long do we have, Marina? 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, I may ask, but since I took all the time yesterday with all the questions, if any, and I didn't have the time to give the floor to the audience, if anybody wants to make a question, I give my place to them, because I think it's good also to have the audience not only looking at the presentations, but also having the opportunity to interact a little bit. Otherwise, I go ahead.
We have a question.
I would like to ask to the two speakers that have been say that preparing the floor of the materials for recycling, that means indicating key indication for recycling. Do you have values for this key indicator for recycling? You indicated in your presentation you have indication for recycling, for dismantling, and for reuse. Do you have values for these indicators? Yes.
Actually, the study that we have done started first by proposing these indicators and the calculation method for these indicators, and then we needed actual products and data in order to analyze the products that exist first in France in the market, and to know to which extent they are circular and they have a recycled content, in order to know how to assess other products, to create reference values. So we were able to analyze products in the national EPD database in France, INES, for the recycled content. I don't have the figures in mind right now, but the percentage is very different from one product category to another. We can, it really depends if we're talking about structural products or secondary products in the building. But I'm sure we can discuss this more and we can present the first results that we have.
Yes, and Edith, your point of view about these key indicators also for design for recycling?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
No, for Edith.
As you mentioned, there's a need of at least, if you want to see the improvements, you need a baseline. So in order to analyze this baseline, as you mentioned, the EPDs databases and the product category rules of these EPDs can be at least seen. And we all know that these EPDs are should not be used to compare. And that's to be compared, they have to accomplish some establishment. But in the case of the design, as you can have a reference design, and from there you can compare, there is where you can select improvements. And if your client specifically asks you for an objective, you can go for that, or you can just improve your design from that point. You always do a baseline, and you analyze this baseline, and you can select this information. And it's true that in these EPDs, you see the percentage of this recycling content. And when you go for secondary raw materials, or for other materials, or for when you introduce an innovative materials that have a percentage, you can compare with that with a life cycle assessment approach if this material has not an EPD. So you can introduce this in your model. At least is how we calculate that. But of course, now there is not a standard that shows you what is the specific baseline to follow and what is the percentage to achieve. But you can always calculate your baseline, and from that you can introduce the changes.
Thank you very much for both.
Okay, I think we need to finish the session, but you can come now and talk to them, ask the question out of the session. I'm sorry for that, but timing is very strict and we need to finish right now. Thank you, Susanna. Thank you, Christopher. If you still can hear me, thank you, Mona and Edith, for coming today, for giving us your view on circular economy and the perspective for the future. And thanks to Marco for co-chairing the session. And as I said before, there is real coffee, so enjoy.